I live in United States of America, and of course everybody knows, everybody who lives here, and not only those people who live here, know very well that in particular we're very sensitive when the rights of black people are concerned. If, for instance, a policeman shoots a black person, there are a lot of demonstrations all over US. The majority of American people are particularly sensitive when it comes to black people, when it comes to Muslims, who are also considered a minority. So you'd think that when people who are at the same time black and Muslim, and when not one or two would die, but when we're talking about deaths of probably hundreds of thousands, it's for sure the number of civilians that were killed within basically 2 or 3 weeks, just recently in Sudan. They were black, they were Muslim, they was completely civilian, there was no fault of their own, women, children. Their numbers is much greater than for sure throughout the entire war in Gaza, for instance. In 2.5, maybe 2 and 3 months of the war in Gaza, there were fewer people dead, and certainly fewer civilians dead, than in these 2 or 3 weeks in Sudan. Right? The number of that nobody argues about. There are different opinions on how many civilians were killed, but it's definitely true that it's much larger than the number in 2 and something years of the war in Gaza. And of course, we saw all those people who was going to demonstrations and all kinds of statements, and the whole world's attention to the war in Gaza. Is Israel maybe targeting civilians? Could there be some civilian deaths that could have been avoided? That was a big topic of conversation everywhere. But where is the outcry? Where is the Black Lives Matter? Where are all these people who are, like I said, when there's one black person who is killed, by the way, not purposefully, in the case of a person after whom, by the way, now we have a holiday in America to remember what happened. The whole holiday happens to be my birthday, by the way, 19th of June. So that man that was killed, by the way, he was a criminal. That nobody argues about. The question is that he was killed, and that shouldn't have happened, of course. But he was a criminal. He wasn't a regular person. He wasn't a regular normal person. He was doing something wrong. He was a criminal. And the person who killed him, he didn't just come and shoot him into his head. There was a mistake that the cop made, and it was a fatal mistake. Of course, nobody argues that there was a problem. What the cop did is wrong, and he was charged with, manslaughter of some sort or whatever. But it wasn't a mamash murder. It wasn't really that a person would come and actually shoot somebody. It was a fatal accident, which the cop was judged and went to jail for many years as a person responsible for this accident. But the point is, it wasn't anything similar to what's going on in Sudan today. It's not even remotely similar. This was not a murder first degree or anything like that. The man who was killed was not a righteous, innocent man. He was a criminal. And with all that, because this man died, a whole holiday was added to the United States. There were so many demonstrations. There was so much going on because of one person. Now, think about it. Very logical that the entire world should be on their ears on what's going on in Sudan. Where is the outcry? Where is Macron? Where is the statements? Those people don't hesitate to condemn Israel all the time whenever they think that maybe Israel could have protected civilians better. And they think that civilians died by accident, by the way. None of them claim that Israel actually specifically goes around shooting civilians. Obviously, Israel has better weapons than the Sudanese, so if they wanted to kill people on purpose, they would have had, it certainly took less than 2 weeks for them to kill as many people as the Sudanese were able to. But even if Israel accidentally maybe has some civilian casualties, there's huge outcries, huge demonstrations. Where is the outcry about the poor black Muslim people who were killed for no fault of their own at all, massacred in the worst genocidal way in Sudan? Where? Okay, the people who are killing them are also Muslim. Has to be said here, that may be a big part of it. had it been that that's not even Israel necessarily, but let's say if it would be America who would perpetuate anything similar, obviously the world would be standing on their ears. But here it's Muslims killing other Muslims, so it's less impressive to most people. But still, I mean, these people are completely suffering for no fault of their own. Where is the outcry? We see a big outcry now to free Marwan Barghouti, right? One of the leaders of the Arabs who was sitting five life sentences. 5 people died because of him. He's a mass murderer, terrorist. And there's demonstrations in various places that he has to be released. Why, by the way? What exactly changed? Did he actually say openly that he's willing, after he's released, to give up terrorism, that he is willing to live side by side with Israel or something like that? No, none of the above. But people spend their time, they go on demonstrations, they go on to demand the release of a person who is serving 5 life sentences. But where is the outcry about the people who are completely not at fault, who are being killed in mass way in Sudan? Where? Zero. Did you ever hear even about the issue? I think some people may have heard that there's something going on in Sudan. Most people didn't even hear. They certainly heard about the war in Gaza. Oh, the entire press and all this, all the outlets and all the social networking sites are full of this. But not a word about this. It's barely anywhere in the news. Barely anything. No statement from Macron, no statement from Steinmeier, no particular interest. And these are the people, again, if these people would never be interested in anything that's going on outside of their country, I would understand that. Okay, maybe they're isolationists. They think that England or France should be dealing only with England and French problems. They have plenty of problems in Great Britain and France right now. But no, these people, like I said, are very vocal when it comes to all kinds of other things. In particular, they're incredibly vocal when it comes to Israel. And not a word about Sudan. Wouldn't you think that at least something these people should do? Try to offer some help or do something to save whoever can be saved. Well, that's really the message of the hypocrisy of the Western world, in particular the leftists today. The hypocrisy is just so unbelievable that there's nothing to discuss. You know, people having time to go on demonstrations to release Marwan Barghouti, and not a single voice in these demonstrations to do something to help the people in Sudan. Not just Sudan, but so many places right now where people are getting killed in thousands, in tens of thousands, and nobody cares. Nobody. It's zero interest. So our sages, when they compare this type of civilization to a pig, a hypocritical pig, you know, in Judaism, pig is often compared to hypocrisy. There are different qualities. In particular, one of the worst qualities a person could have, it's one of the 4 qualities that it says that he cannot approach Hashem. Hashem doesn't like people who have hypocrisy in them. So this is one of the worst qualities. This is a terrible hypocrisy. So in particular, the pig is supposed to be by us a symbol of hypocrisy. It has a split hoof, which is a kosher sign, but of course the pig is not kosher because it doesn't chew its cud. So its outside sign is kosher, but not the inside sign. Kind of as if the pig is sticking out its hoof and showing, you see, I have a split hoof. I'm so kosher. And of course we know it's not. So that's the Western world, the Roman Empire at some point. The hypocrisy of it is just unbelievable. And unfortunately, it's true today to a very, very large extent. And as Hanukkah is approaching in a few days, my message is, of course, one of the main themes of Hanukkah is that a little bit of light can take away a lot of darkness. So every person who hears me, if you have friends who are super excited about, let's say, having this terrorist released, or who are super interested all of a sudden in what's going on in Israel, let's look under the microscope. Can we find something that they're doing wrong? Why don't they look inside themselves and ask themselves, are you just as interested in trying to save the people who are being massacred in a scale that's hundreds of times worse? Even if there are some civilian deaths in Gaza, there are, of course, every war has civilian deaths. According to the experts, actually, Israel is achieving lesser percentage of civilians versus combatants than any other country in similar circumstances. US just recently was bombing Mosul in Iraq, trying to destroy ISIS. There are all kinds of examples to be compared to. Afghanistan, there are plenty of examples to compare to. And Israel has achieved a golden standard of sorts. And, unfortunately, every death is death. I mean, if there was a way to avoid it, it would be great. But you can't stop Hitler without killing many Germans. You can't stop Hamas without, unfortunately, many of the people in Gaza dying. And Hamas uses it as a strategy, human shield strategy. That is very well known, and it's easily checkable. There's no, they don't even hide it really. So, right, if they wanted to save civilians, they would have at least allowed some of the tunnels to be used as bomb shelters. But they're only saving their own and putting their weapons, storing it in every kindergarten, every hospital, the more civilian the place is, the more you could expect Hamas to having their main rockets and their main areas where the fighters are hiding, under every hospital, under every kindergarten, under every school. It's all Hamas. So the fact that the world is judging Israel when some civilians get killed is actually promoting this. They're actually making things worse, because there will be fewer Gazans dead if Hamas wouldn't use this strategy. And why is Hamas using this strategy? Because it knows the world will pick up. The world will be, of course, shown these pictures. Oh, children dead. Of course, children are dead. And what do you expect? And what do you want? How do you want Israel to respond? Maybe we should wait till Hamas keeps repeating the October, the massacre that they did on Simchat Torah, that Black Shabbat, which we call, right? The Shabbat that was Simchat Torah, one of the happiest holidays. That's when they came and they actually, on camera, killed, raped, burned babies, did horrible massacre. And after that, they said they'll do it again and again and again. So what do we want Israel to do? There's no more justified war than what Israel had started afterwards. And with all that, Israel achieved golden standard of the ratio of civilian to combatant casualties. The civilian casualties compared to combats that are killed. But of course, people expect from Israel some kind of unbelievable standard that doesn't exist, and no such thing exists. Maybe there is in the future going to be invented some kind of a smart bomb that only targets terrorists and somehow avoids any civilian casualties. I don't know what will be invented in the future. Right now, no such thing exists. And comparing Israel to other countries that had wars that are sort of similar, Israel did better in terms of the numbers of civilians that were killed. Just as every German child that was killed was the fault of Nazis, so too every Gazan child that was killed is fault of Hamas. So, whatever the case may be, hypocrisy, the horrible thing about hypocrisy is that it's just unbelievable that people misuse and reverse and replace the good for evil and the evil for good, and they're okay with it. The hypocrisy that we see today is just unbelievable. Nobody would even believe it 3-4 years ago that such a hypocrisy could exist. And on this, I'm going to end this little video, and please help spread it to those who are still willing to listen and to understand.